As it's cloud-based, Google Drive is available from any computer that you can get internet access with. Now, when you first log in, it usually takes you to My Drive as the first one, and you'll see down the left-hand side you've got some different options. It all comes down to permissions, really, but the simplest way of looking at it is that My Drive are folders and files that belong to you and that you have ownership of. You can choose to share them, but you don't have to. By default, only you have access to them. You'll notice that a couple of the folders and a couple of the files in my Drive have got a little person icon on them. That's because those folders have been shared with other people. So it may be living in My Drive, but other people have access to that folder. So if it's they have access to that folder, they can see all the files inside. If I give them access to a specific file, just that file. So stuff in My Drive belongs to me and lives there. It's my control. I can choose to share it or not. The shared drives behave slightly differently. Now, the number of shared drives that you see will depend on your level of access and what ones you've been invited to. I can see on mine here how many people have access to each one of these drives, or in some cases groups of people. So that might be a mailing group. So it might be teachers at DJS have access to that group. Now, a shared drive, any folders or files created in there belong to and can be dealt with by anyone who is part of that shared drive. So because I have access to this shared drive, I can do anything to any of these folders or files because this is a drive that I am part of. But it's a My Drive for many people. Only thing I can't do at the moment, and all this is coming in soon, is I can't share a shared file drive because it's already shared. I'd have to share the whole drive, although that is apparently getting changed very soon. I can share individual files from inside, but then that's more a case of just signposting another user to them. So that's the main difference between My Drive and Shared Drive. My Drive, it's the files live on My Drive and only I can see unless I choose to share them. In Shared Drive, they live in the shared drive and everyone can see them. So who has access to that shared drive, and I just choose who to give keys to that shared drive. Shared with me brings up any files that have been shared with me ever. So if someone's ever shared something from their drive with me, I can see a link to it there. So that's quite useful if I want to trace down things that people have sent. This comes up by default with a quick access list along the top of things that have been sent to me recently or that I've been using and the Google Drive thinks I'm going to use regularly. The recent are things that I've had open recently and been using, so that's quite good if you want to pick up on something again. Regularly accessed, it tells you when you last looked at it and it gives you a chance to work through there. Starred, we'll look at in more detail later. That's basically a way of having favourites or quick access ones. Bin, it's just a chance to see stuff you've thrown away recently. It lives in there for about 30 days before it's completely deleted. So if something's gone wrong, you can get it back. Priority is a little bit more complicated. It's a little bit like a way of setting your favourites for the things you want quick access to. I think it's most useful for people who have quite messy drives, but it is there and it can be quite helpful. And you can just create links to different documents. We'll look at that one in a separate video because there's quite a lot to go on with that. Along the top, you've got your search bar. Now, some people just keep a very messy drive, don't put it in folders and just type in the search in the top, and that works perfectly fine for them as long as you can remember roughly what you've called something. You've got all the usual Google search options, so you can make sure that you could search for only files found by different people. We'll look at that one in a little bit more detail later on. We've also got a cog where you can adjust your settings, and if we go into anything other than priority, we also have the option to change the view. Now, some people quite like it a list because it looks quite windowy. The other option, of course, is you can change it to a grid view, which is where you see all the folders collapse into a very small picture, and you have all the files available at the bottom because Google tends to put folders at the top, and then you get files appearing down at the bottom. So that is very, very, very quickly the overview of what a Google Drive looks like. One of the most powerful little tools in it is that I've currently in My Drive, if I click on the new, I can create a folder or I can upload, say from a memory stick or somewhere else, a file or a folder, or I can create a new anything that I use regularly. I can create a new one of those, and by default, it will be in My Drive. If I click on Shared Drives and I go into one of the shared drives, so again, I've gone into the grid view, which I'm not a fan of. If I go into my Year 4 drive and then click New, the folder or the file that I create will be in there straight away. So I don't need to worry about where I'm saving it. So if I create it this way, it automatically puts it into where I'm currently working. Distinction to that is if you're using the docs new to start a new folder or a new file, that will always go into My Drive by default. So you'd have to move it along afterwards. So it depends how quickly you want to do it. It's just habit, really. That is the overview of Google Drive.